No!
Let me tell you something.
What the hell is going on here?
You listen to me.
Welcome to Cocktail Cinema, folks. I am your first favorite bartender, your third favorite author, Josh Bryce. And I'm here during Black History Month with my best friends, Grego.
Oh, that's nice of you. Fozman here. Glad to be here on this cold, blistery February day. We're inside, ladies and gentlemen. Big Buddy couldn't handle the cold, so we brought it in. It's like negative 30 out here.
We're inside like civilized people.
And to his right, we got Shasti.
Pleasure.
Today's topic is possibly one of the best films ever made. Definitely the film that Sidney Poitier is most well known for. Guess who's coming to dinner? Now, as always, before we get to the meat of the issue, we got to have ourselves a drink. So, we got ourselves a white wine and a red wine today. The white wine is the Sea Glass Pinot Grigio. You can find this pretty much anywhere at a very reasonable price. I think this bottle cost me about like $9.
Solid.
Yeah, as far as the Pinot Grigio goes, it's pretty standard. It's a real clean white wine, a little bit sweet, a little bit tart. There we go. Pass these around.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right.
It's a hefty glass.
It's harder to cheers over here. How's the nose, Grego?
The nose feel. Lemony.
Yeah,
Lemony,
very
fresh.
very tart. Yeah.
Clean. Kind of soapy smell.
Soapy?
Yeah. I'm not a big white wine guy. You know what I mean?
I'm not either, but as far as white wines go, like this is pretty standard Pinot Grigio.
Yeah,
So if you're getting
most
an
restaurants.
introduction into white wines, this is a good place to start.
Yeah. It's a white wine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean for the price point, it's not bad, you know.
For white wines, I actually prefer like Gewürztraminer. Have you ever heard of that style?
No.
It's a German white wine. It kind of drinks like a red. It's a little bit more viscous.
Okay.
But like still has that sweetness. Gewürztraminer. Check them
Wait,
out.
usually
Style.
like a Riesling bottle?
no,
the
it's-
tall?
Yeah, maybe.
I think I
mean,
may have
it's-
seen a couple of these. Yeah.
There's only a few, and not a lot of people know of that style. Like, obviously it's fucking German as hell, But it's good. It's like I said, a little more viscous. I don't know if that's why I dislike white wines, is because it's too
thin.
watered down, too thin. Yeah,
they do have a thin feel. So, pardon me, wine's already getting to me.
I know. Hiccups.
Like white wines, they're always good to pair with like fish and chicken, just because they are light like that. They're not typically a sipping drink unless you go sweeter or sparkling.
Yeah, no.
So this is something you'd probably pair with dinner.
Oh yeah, I mean most women that drink white wine drink bottles of white wine. It's like
Pair with dinner and a good movie.
right,
You know,
right,
right.
a good movie. The reds they stick to a couple glasses, but the whites they burn. They burn.
Yeah. Alrighty. So now that we have our first glass, we'll be breaking into the red later. I'll have a little bit more to say about that one when we get to it, because I'm very excited about it. But yeah, Sea Glass Pinot Grigio, very affordable, very drinkable. Let's get into the meat and potatoes before we get to the meat and potatoes. Guess who's coming to dinner?
Sorry.
Guess who's coming to dinner came out in 1967. It was directed by Stanley Kramer. Now, Stanley Kramer was known for addressing big social issues in his movies, so this is pretty run-of-the-mill for him. It had a $4 million budget, and it made $56.7 million in box office. So a smash hit.
Yeah, I'm surprised the budget was that large for 67.
For that time, yeah.
I mean, that's big stuff there.
And so the reason we're doing this movie is this is if not the first, the most notable moment of an interracial couple, like a black man and a white woman, and it is definitely the first time where the concept of them getting married was put on film. So it's a big historical moment for both our culture and for film. And on top of that, it's got just some bangers as far as the cast goes. Speaking of which,
Let's dive in. Like Josh was saying, Sidney Poitier.
Poitier.
Yeah. Dr. John Prentice. I have a newfound love for this guy. I'm going to be watching a lot of his movies after this one. He's a great actor.
Absolutely.
Spencer Tracy as Matt Drayton. That's her father. Katharine Hepburn as Christina Drayton. As her mother. Catherine Houghton as Joey Drayton, or Joanna. B. Richards as Mrs. Prentice, John's mother, and Roy Glenn as Mr. Prentice, his father. Isabel Sanford is Tilly. She's kind of the member of the house, another colored woman. They call her part of the family. She is displeased throughout this movie, to say the least. And Cecil Calloway. My favorite part of this movie is Monsignor Ryan. he's classic in this one.
Yeah, for sure. So diving into our speed summary, this is going to be a real easy one to tackle. In 1967, a black man played by Sidney Poitier and a white woman played by Katharine Hepburn's niece come to her parents' house and let them know that they are getting married, and then they fly his parents up from Los Angeles, and 40 years later, hilarity ensued. But anyway, in this movie, it was a very serious
40
affair.
minutes.
So like I said, real quick, yeah, they did remake this movie as a comedy in the aughts, somewhere in like 07, 08, something like that, with, I believe, Cedric the Entertainer as the father, and
Now that you say
Ashton Kutcher as Sidney Poitier's character. Naturally. Because when I think Sidney Poitier, I think Ashton Kutcher. So yeah.
Well, I don't.
This is not a comedy.
No.
However, there's a few really good jokes in it. I'd like to start there just because I think this is a very straightforward film, but the dialogue kind of makes it. And it's, in my opinion, the dialogue is very indicative of the time, but also somewhat ahead of its time. And what I mean
Very
by that
straightforward.
is in the 50s and 60s, we were still kind of figuring out what belongs in a movie. So we weren't quite sure what dialogue needed to look like, what scenes needed to be in a film. We were still very much in book and play form, play form. So we would have scenes and moments that are on screen then that we wouldn't put in movies now, but they did kind of make the movie at times. So like when Sidney Poitier is on the terrace talking to his future father-in-law, he throws out a couple of jokes that land really well with me, but we wouldn't put them in movies today. And I think that's what kind of sets this movie apart right off the bat.
Right off the bat. I mean, there's no... It jumps off. They show the beginning as an aircraft coming in, a plane. That's how it gets started. They land. They get into a taxi, and with that shitty back screen, as they're not leaning with the turns. They're not moving
Top
around.
of the line shit. The top of the line.
That's where they spent that $4 million. But
like within 10 seconds of the movie starting, they lay out the obvious problem, which is all the way to the climax of the movie, the main talking point, which goes with what you say, just like the script, is unreal.
Yeah, and right away in the taxi, it's Dr. Prentice and Joey, and he's already giving his qualms about meeting her white family.
Yeah.
As a black man, he's already putting it down like, this is too soon. This shouldn't be like this. We're giving them 20 minutes to tell our whole 10 days, and they know how crazy it is. Well, at least he does a little bit, because she's 23 and he's 37, I believe.
Yeah.
So he knows, she's all for it, but he's got his reservations, and I think that's why he came off so strong to her family, is because he was almost kind of
Testing the waters.
And I think that he kind of wanted them to talk him out of it a little bit, or at least just check him. I mean, because he's a liberal newspaper owner, and has done a lot for, not just black culture, but other races,
civil rights in general.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I thought that was a jumping off point. It gets right into it, and it doesn't stop. The whole movie is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, jumping off of what you're saying here, these characters are very well flashed out, and with John's character, Sidney Poitier, we've got a guy who he's lived his whole life as a black man in America. He knows what he's up against. And then we've got, 23-year-old, Catherine, who was raised by liberal parents. And even in the movie, they're like, she doesn't just not see our color difference as a difference. She doesn't see a difference. So her lens is very unique. And then the parents have to check themselves because they've raised themselves. They've raised themselves as liberals, and they've raised their family to be accepting and culturally sensitive.
Teach equality.
Yeah.
And then when Katharine Hepburn gets in that right, like at the end of the movie, she's like, we've created this. Like she is exactly what we've portrayed ourselves as, what we wanted out of a child, and now we're gonna turn our back on this kind of thing. So this movie has tons of questions, tons of answers, and the characters. Because I'm, the character guy, here. But I mean, I thought they were given so much space to grow.
Yes.
They didn't convolute the cast with a whole lot of people. The camera work was very slow. They had their shots, and I really like that because it got in the face of Sydney, in the face of Katharine Hepburn, the dad. I forgot his name. Spencer Tracy. Who is reminds me of the grandpa from Up, not like the glasses and stuff. It's like is that
very
the whole
much
thing's
so.
based on?
Very much so.
But no, I'd really appreciate this one just because of the amount of growth for every character, except for Tilly. She was always kind of a little bitch, but she was just looking out for her. It's basically her daughter. She was there for 23 years.
I mean, we're talking about a character. That's the only stereotypical character we have in the whole movie is Tilly. Tilly is the help, quote unquote. She's the maid. That's these are beyond slavery times by quite a while, but it's
and
still
they call her part of the family,
right?
So
and that's the only social issue they don't address is the presence of the black community as laborers.
And they keep telling her to make more fucking food.
Right.
Call the butcher.
It'll
make another pie, another steak. Yeah, if that was me going against Katherine Hahn's Joey, I'd be like, whatever. You keep.
Well, how much does it cost to get a steak delivered these days? Let's go on Instacart right now.
Maybe again we'll talk about the cost of the film. $4 million. That's how much it costs. I really don't see how they spent that much money on that. In this movie, $4 million and 67.
I mean, we've got huge names. So Sidney Poitier, we've got Spencer Tracy.
It was Columbia, right?
I believe so. Yeah,
I think it was
and we've got
Emerged,
Katharine Hepburn.
But yeah,
those are three of the biggest names in Hollywood at the time.
That's true.
Even Houghton was a child star up until that point. She's playing a 22-year-old. I'm not sure how old she was in this movie, but
probably close.
She had a long list of
she's cutie pie. She's cutie pie for sure.
Well, I mean, this is. Like we said off mic, this is California royalty at the time. Yeah. This is cream of the crop, and I think they spent all their money on cast and developing sets. So this movie is filmed like a play. They utilize every inch of those rooms. Yeah. There's people moving around the room constantly. They use the set dressing, like you were talking about earlier, using some of the trees and stuff, just to give you the audience feels like they're in the room. And they give you that ambiance. And
they really only show 3 rooms in the whole movie. I mean, besides the airport scene, you're either in the study, the main sitting area, or the terrace. Or
you're in a car.
Or a really awesome taxi with moving windows. But no, so there wasn't much of a set there. So I guess you're totally right as far as the allocation of funds go for that. It's got to be just towards the actors.
Yeah, I mean, that was Spencer Tracy, who was one of the biggest actors for the previous 3 decades.
Yeah.
And this is his last movie.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he was he was in cancer for this movie, and Columbia wasn't going to sign him on because of the insurance.
Right.
So that was a huge ordeal, and Spencer's like pretty much if I die throughout this movie, he signed off not until the movie's done and it goes from shooting to the editing. You know what I mean? Then he's makes that point, then I get my no money in advance, no guarantee.
He died, 3 months after this movie?
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks.
No way.
Yeah, the fucked up part is Katharine Hepburn was his lover.
Mm-hmm. They were in 9 movies.
And Katharine Hepburn is
you guys are doing your homework.
Hepburn is Katherine Houghton's aunt too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I knew that part, but I didn't realize.
So I'm saying the Houghton's got her aunt on set, who's
and essentially
Spencer
her uncle.
Tracy. Yeah,
right, because he's been in the family for so long.
And she's the kid on the set, and they're treating her like that and embarrassing her. But it's Spencer. 2.5 weeks after this, he passed.
Yeah,
and
I knew it was quick.
And it was something that after watching all these interviews, it was something that nobody like comes out and says it, but they all kind of feel like that made him hold on for that much longer. Like he could only shoot in the morning for a couple hours, and like the last scene at the end of the movie like
would have exhausted him.
Yeah, that was they had to do that in so many takes. One of the main editors was like, that was like, at that time you're literally cutting film.
Yeah.
So he's like, this was the hardest task I had ever, was to edit his conversation with everybody.
Well, think about how many cuts are in that scene.
Yeah.
So
where my mind goes is his capability to be so articulate and so.
Well, I mean, the
script is not. I know, but that's what I'm saying. How do you get off these conversations, these scripts that are? He's got some big parts and some big.
He believed in this
emotions.
Film, and Stanley Kramer's his boy, and he's like, I want to do, like, think about it, like, you're a musician, it's your one last solo, that's your last speech. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm the type of guy who, like, I don't like that part of the movie. Like, the end of the movie ends like, I call it, the Kevin Costner speech. You know what I mean? She's got great ones. I'm just saying, sometimes I'm just like, all right, I could, whatever, how much time left. But I'm saying this was like his last hurrah.
His masterpiece, Dewey Cox masterpiece.
No, absolutely.
You're right, for sure.
It's a monologue that it was that's how they made movies back then. A movie like this would end with a monologue, but at the same time, they don't drag it out for too long. Morvino?
Yeah.
No, I figured we'd switch one, halfway through.
I'm still.
It's okay.
I'm still.
No, we're not chugging because we want more wine, Josh. I thought you were a bartender.
I am. I'm sorry. I didn't get you.
You were my second favorite.
I pressed these grapes myself with.
I appreciate that, Doctor.
Nice. I pressed them with my feet and my toes.
That's right. This is my foot wine.
Over sea glass.
Over sea glass. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
It's all right.
So I mean, there's
you're talking about the monologues and
the monologue
at the time
that was the way they made
creme de la
movies.
creme, yeah.
And this is kind of at the tail end of that, with the exception of movies like Dune and shit, where it kind of calls for a monologue. This is not just a last hurrah for him, but a last hurrah for that style of filmmaking, where we're going into a new era with the 70s approaching, where action was about to take over, and these thought pieces like this were a dying breed. These are now art films when we make them today because of the 70s. So this being made in 67, this is not only the heyday, but also the end of that era. Yeah. And that's another thing that makes this such a hallmark in film history, is what kind of film it is, what it's talking about, and who the fuck is in it.
And the time frame it's put out in. I mean, it's not just, this isn't just the only issue during that time.
They talk about all this shit going on, like civil rights, liberalism and conservatism, sexual activity, which was like the Summer of Love was what?
16, it's either 67 or 69. It's one of the two.
I think it was 67. So the sexual awakening, Summer of Love, black culture in culture, so like dancing, music, sports, they
call that out for sure. It's like, oh no, we are this.
Yeah,
like, you guys portray this. We are that. So
what is? I
forgot what it was talking about. I think
Watusi.
The dance.
You do the Watusi. We are the Watusi.
Yeah, for sure.
The role of parenthood in a child's life is addressed on both sides of the line,
and especially on that rich parenthood, because usually you talk about like these guys are like, the mom's a drunk ass and the dad's going to play golf, but he goes to try to play golf, but he cancels his golf shit because he's got some shit going on, which I respected.
Well, normally when you have parenthood addressed like this, it's in a story like Fences.
Oh God, that movie sucked.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
We're gonna have to talk about that off mic
later.
I think Fences has a lot to say.
It does for sure.
I mean, obviously, I'm partial to a different version of the story, but got to give some love to Denzel.
Always,
but. You normally see it through that.
Sidney's the original Denzel. So just since you said Denzel, like, he is the.
That's what I was going to say.
He was the first leading male actor.
Yeah,
like,
Denzel or Wesley.
He was
Snipes.
like the first leading male black actor.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he took a lot of pride in that.
Yeah,
he wanted that role. Like it's a shame that he died a little bit before his time, but he wanted that role because of that. He played that. I wouldn't say martyr, but he wanted to be that first. Christopher Columbus was a bad reference for America, but anyway, but just paving the way,
Well, and they kind of address it in the movie when he's talking to his dad. He was like, "You see yourself as a colored man. Yeah. I see myself as a man." Well, Sidney Poitier took that same mentality to his acting. He wasn't a black actor; he was an actor, and that's it.
I like
shows.
that exchange too between him and his dad. I really like that exchange. You know, he gave his dad a lot of respect, letting him go on and on about his thoughts, and he sat there like, you know, he's a learned doctor. He's been like, they give his credentials on the phone, and it's just like biggity,
like 3 times. Yeah.
And so he's like, you've never given us a reason to, you know, distrust your thought process, all that kind of stuff. And he calls it out, and he's like, shut up. I mean, even his dad's like, you don't tell me to shut up. I walked 30,000 miles.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to, after that, after he's finished, he says, I don't care if you had to walk 100 million miles or something like that. You owed it to me. When you had me as a father, you owed me that. I don't owe you a single thing.
Yeah. It's a gangster move.
Yeah.
You know what else is a gangster move? Snoop Dogg teamed up with 19 Crimes.
Dang.
And he made a California... Which camera am I on?
This one.
Camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera
19
2.
Crimes for a red blend.
19 Crimes is the one that the faces talk if you do the XR.
Yeah, so if you take a picture of this, I think it's just taking a picture, but it might be a QR code thing.
I think it's
but the faces will talk about, you know, their life or their crime or whatever.
Nah.
That's good. That's good.
Can you slide that forward?
Oh, of course I
Thank you,
can.
sir. Yeah. So
More.
nice little red wine blend. Y'all know I'm partial to my red wines.
Yeah, samesies, bro.
This is a good one. There you go,
Pause
Snoop.
for...
Get your moment in the sun.
Okay. Blendy.
It's a little bit sweet. Let me look what's blended here.
You gotta smell it with your mouth.
I didn't
right?
see it.
Is that what you gotta do?
I didn't see any what's in there. Just says a California red, so it's probably all that. Zinfandel. Wood.
Smells like some backwoods in here mixed in there. So.
Dark cherries.
There's definitely cherries to
A little
it.
vanilla. Actually, heavy vanilla. I'm getting into it. All right.
Yeah, it's almost got that rum feel to it. It's very smooth, very rounded out.
Cool. Ooh, she dry. She's a dry
But
one.
still sweet. It's a good balance of sweet and dry. I love this wine.
That's not
She's
bad.
dry.
It's not that dry.
No, it's not. It's dry on the front of the tongue and not tangy in the back. Like most dry wines are tangy on the back.
It's very balanced.
Very well balanced. This is one of their best
Snoop-a-loo.
wines. And this is another
Bring your
wine.
green
Like,
hat.
And double
Bring your green hat.
OPD,
Snoop-a-loo.
double just see.
Snoop-a-loo.
this bottle will cost you $12-15. So
yeah.
another
I'd rock it.
bargain buy.
Rock it.
But yeah, good wine. So getting back to the gangster move, because my dad showed me this scene from this movie before he had me watch this movie. So it's very pivotal for me. How about you break down what happens in that conversation between him and his dad? Like what his dad says and what he's got to say back.
Well, his dad goes on to say, not that he doesn't trust him, but that this is the first time that he hasn't been able to trust him, even though he's 37. He's very established, professional doctor, doctor of medicine, but
Never stepped a foot out of line.
You know, he's been there, done that kind of stuff, and he walked his 30,000 miles before he retired to give him the time to put his face in the books instead of buying his mom a new coat, they say.
Yeah.
It's, oh, she wants a fucking coat kind of thing. He's like, no, you don't know me. I don't know you shit.
Right.
You're my father. I didn't ask to be brought in this world. You had me. So when you had me, you were given that
Yeah.
birthright, or he's given that birthright. And say when I have a son, hopefully that he will have the same thought processes and stuff. And I want to draw back to that as well. Sidney Poitier's character, Dr. John Prentice, lost his wife and small son, I think 8 years prior to meeting Joey.
I guess we never
Yes.
talked about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So that's a huge blow. You know, I mean, he's actually able to trust again, especially him going to Hawaii and meeting this woman only after 10 days.
Yeah.
And being so, smart and cunning and just learned, having been through these situations before, it seems out of place for someone like that to make this flighty situation happen after 10 days. Yes, I'm going to marry a 23-year-old white woman I met in Hawaii.
Well, he
after 10
says
days
it.
and I'm 40.
He
I'm
says it when
37.
he's talking to the maid. She's like, "What do you think you're doing?" He's like, "Well, I intended to find myself a wife."
Right. And I don't know if he tried to talk himself out of it a little bit, because he gave him the ultimatum right away. Like, if you don't say yes tonight, it's not going to happen. I respect you guys that much. Kinda.
Well, okay,
but he didn't respect the love of his wife enough, I feel like, to.
I'm gonna put a pin in that one.
Bold.
I'm gonna put a pin in that one because we can get to that in just a second.
Sorry, I know I was supposed to talk about
the
round out the
dad.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So
that's my bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So because that leads into the next bit there, because we're kind of taking this movie backwards. We're kind of deconstructing it from back to front. So the conversation with his dad was very important culturally, but it's also important to my own father, because it's that generation, that greatest generation, who are like, we worked our asses off for you, so you owe us everything. And then it's the boomer generation, true boomers. We're talking about the people that, pioneered the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement and the gay movement. The people that were all about everybody else, getting everybody up to the level and being like, you know what, you owed me that. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for any of this. You owed me every fucking cent you gave me because that is your responsibility as a father. It's very indicative of like how older people versus young people say you're welcome.
Yeah.
Like, right. Older people say you're welcome and we're like, no worries or no problem.
Yeah.
Because it's, from our point of view, it's like, oh, it's no burden for me. And other people are like, you are welcome to my service because I owe it to you.
True.
Like, no. I don't owe you anything. Yeah. It's courtesy.
But look at what he's done, after that. And his dad doesn't talk about that, which kind of pissed me off. I mean, there's many talks about him being in these magazines and this, that, and the other. He's kind of a popular dude. And he jokes jokes about with her dad about how he was able to do so much in such a short time. And he's like, I think people are probably just afraid to call themselves racist. And I thought that's a joke we were talking about in the beginning,
Yeah.
But that was kind of was underlined. It was funny. But
he says he thinks he got where he is partly because people were afraid to be prejudiced against him.
Right. And so he apparently did a lot of work in Asia, and he's going into Africa to basically
he was like come out in medical school. He was the director of the World Health Organization.
Like this boy's fucking loaded if it's today.
No, I know, right? Yeah.
But he's very well established. And then that also carries back to what you were talking about with his parents. Like I said, we're going backwards here, but when he has that conversation with
this movie kind of works that way.
Katharine Hepburn and
B?
No, the dad.
Spencer
Tracy. Yes, thank you.
Matt, Mr.
When he has
Drayton.
the conversation with them, I understand where you're coming from, but I think it's more that Sidney Poitier's character, John, knows the struggles they're going to be up against as a mixed race couple in the 60s. He knows, he flat out says it, I don't need any new troubles. I don't need any new problems. And Spencer Tracy's like, when you say new problems, what do you mean?
Oh, I love it. I love
that is the whitest moment. Like, he can't be talking about me.
I really like that they call each other Mr. Doctor. They stay true to like their respect level across the board in this movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a call out. Another thing that kind of caught my eye and like really kind of, it was a weird part that kind of is underlining. He was more comfortable speaking to a white man, the white father of a woman that he's about to marry or trying to marry than he was around his own father, a black man. Even on the telephone, he's like, he writes. So when his dad got there, he's shitting his pants. He was more bold, more abrupt, more himself.
Loose, he was joking.
With the dad than he was with his own father. Because it's just
there's a psychological reason for that. I mean, when we're around our parents, we revert back to our role as sons.
It's true.
Okay. When I was around my old man,
but at 37,
it doesn't go away, man. You are granted, I'm speaking from speculation here.
Yeah, I guess we all are. I mean, I didn't grow up the same way or in the same period.
You are a different person, and you play a different role in your family as your father's son than you do as, your father-in-law's son-in-law in this case. John, the future son-in-law, holds authority and respect because of what he's accomplished. John, the son, holds nothing regardless of what he's accomplished because his father still sees him as you.
Dad walked 30,000. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, 75,000.
And I would walk 75,000. That's why they wrote that song. I'm telling you. That's why they wrote that song. Nice. As a postal service.
We've been working backwards to front a little bit in here, but that final that final speech when what's his name, Mr. Drayton was out. He's thinking for like what seemed like an eternity, just kind of getting his shit together. And actually, we didn't even talk about his friend the Monsignor. We'll get back to that.
Well, I mean, just real quick because we probably should wrap up soon, but it's. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the Monsignor is my favorite character because he said he wants to wrestle this guy, and I loved it. And he's like, "Yeah, you're a piece of shit." He's sitting sipping scotch the whole fucking time, inviting himself to dinner, and like the family's like, we don't hold a denominational religion thing going on, and he's just an old friend, and he's just talking shit. I love this guy so much. So anyway, that final scene where the dad, Mr. Drayton, finally comes to a decision, and he's giving this huge speech.
Yeah.
I know Shasta doesn't like it, but that speech was so good.
I just said I loved it, bro.
All right.
I will
so
stand
much
against
more.
you on this.
It's the best speech since Bill Pullman.
So
Independence Day.
My favorite part about the speech, right? We talked about William Rose writing it, right? So Spencer or Matt Drayton talking to his wife Christina Drayton, like if they have even half of what we had, then it's everything.
Gonna be okay. Yeah.
You know, it's everything.
That is the best part of the speech.
But he's like was talking to her as Spencer to Catherine. You know what I mean? He was talking as Spencer to Catherine Hepburn, and it's like it's crazy.
And she's putty.
Yeah,
like she's awesome. In
That's
this
the
movie,
thing. That's
but,
the thing.
Her eyes don't lie
Joey,
at all.
Catherine Houghton said in this interview, she's like, that's her aunt. She's like, I know her aunt. She's humiliated me on set. She's like, she can ham it up more than anybody. She can hit the waterworks and all these scenes, and they cut to like 10 different scenes from all these movies, all with scenes with Spence. The 9 movies they did together. She's hamming up in each one. Then they show this scene where she starts like really crying. And he dies in 2.5 weeks.
She's
you know
welling up
they're all,
yeah.
That's their last fucking
Yeah.
So I guess that maybe that added to the end, and the whole.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did because I mean,
I guess he was.
And we're talking about a time period where that would have been information that was privileged. Yeah. So not necessarily everybody on set would have known. So the people that were close to him would have had those emotional moments with him. So I'm sure, Catherine knew. And you can see the moment she starts to well up in that speech.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to use this to kind of pole vault into what Greg wants to talk about here. He does.
Pullman?
He does address the priest, the pastor, the Monsignor, the conciliary, other Italian words.
And his name's Calloway, and he just wants to go golf. It's pretty funny.
He just was a golf and wrestler. He cuts him off. Like he doesn't let him drink while he's speaking. He's like, "You've had enough."
Yeah. Well, he's been sitting in the chair. Everybody's been talking on the terrace and in the study. He's just sipping fucking scotch.
My man's been drinking the last 4 scenes.
That's pretty much all he wanted to do. He wanted to go golfing. All he wanted to do is drink scotch.
I laugh every time I watch the scene where the priest is talking to John's parents because he pauses after he goes, "Frankly, I'm stuffed." And like, to me, that's him saying I'm drunk because he's holding his flask in that moment. And then he's like, "I have nothing to say." It's like, yeah, because you're drunk.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of engagements, but I got nothing on this one. And then her dad starts to talk, and she's like, "You better shut the fuck up, too."
Yeah.
It's pretty much that whole
This is the last time I'm going to get to tell you anything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you now.
So there's another...
Shut up.
This may be the last chance I'll ever have to tell you to do anything. So I'm telling you, shut up.
So who's shutting up?
I am, and I'm going to let you speak.
I lost my train.
Don't worry.
I wanted to talk about another aspect of this. So this movie is 1967. For a... They say that there was no sexual encounters between the two, even after 10 days together in Hawaii. I think
10 days, that means butt stuff, right?
right. I mean, a third date, you expect at least some of it. But I guess she was like, "Yeah, I wanted it." He said no.
Family show, folks.
Yeah. But yeah, family show. This was a family. No.
But that was.
So what I'm getting to is the kiss. There was no kissing. Yeah. So they spent so much time together, this, that, and the other, and like they've had a lot of time alone. And I expected there to be some kind of they there's arm in arm kind of stuff. There's he's holding her by the hips and stuff, but
it's 67.
It's like, I guess we're used to nowadays. You're used to nowadays where it's 20.
Was there an interracial kiss before this?
So I mean,
and even this
we can argue that Lucy and Desi had an interracial kiss. before this, but in a year after this film came out, in '68, the first on-screen interracial kiss between a black person and a white person happened on, ironically, Star Trek. Now,
tell me William Shatner got that.
He did. It was Captain Kirk and Uhura, Lieutenant Uhura, his number 3 in command. And it's convenient because we actually have
number 3.
We actually have Captain Kirk here today to tell us about that kiss.
Oh, nanu.
But yeah, so this
I'm
is
more
like,
of a next gen guy. You know,
so, well, I mean, anybody who watches Star Trek is a next gen person.
Not me.
Just, next gen. You know what? We'll have a conversation. No, so it's pivotal that this comes a full year before that kiss, that on-screen kiss, and they were still able to show so much intimacy in this film. And then, because I want to say this film came out in November, but I could be wrong. But I know the episode of Star Trek came out in November, so it's almost it's a full year or more before there's that breaking of the glass.
And I looked up some still shots. I didn't watch the scene from that like Star Trek kiss. It was very involved. He's like got her wrapped around. She's like fully
It was a full
engulfed.
Shatner kiss,
and like it's some shit. It's
I
not
want
just a,
Shatner
it's not
to
just a
kiss
little
me.
pick.
Well, young Shatner.
I'd shat in my pants if he kissed me, dude. I tell you.
Young Shatner.
Young
Welcome to
Shatty.
Josh's King Corner.
All right,
This is a
there you
weird place to be.
I know. You hear it every once in a while.
Back again.
I thought we were going to get there with Katharine Hepburn because,
Well, we can
I mean,
talk about that.
she's still got it in this movie.
Is it because she's got a little bit of the shakes?
Well, I mean, we've
Sorry, I noticed that a little bit, but
we've definitely developed the fact that I just like abuse, and Katharine Hepburn is an authoritative figure. So she should tell me what to
You remember
do.
the car hop with the double boysenberry or
Yeah.
Like I feel like a creep. Like I know she's like 70 now, but doing like the cast research, like she did like movies for the next 10 years. And she was a smoke show. I'm not saying in this one because she was like whatever
17 or whatever.
right.
She, like I said, she's good looking for 75. Yeah, she's good looking for 75.
Why don't we do boysenberry drinks?
I'm lazy and broke.
No, it's Oregon double fresh boysenberry.
Shit, he really
and
did like that
He
girl.
never gets the name of it right. Like,
But
I love that they scripted it that way.
Go ahead.
Then they pull out. Oh, sorry.
No, they. This is what I was talking about at the beginning, where I said the dialogue is almost too real. Yeah. He says the name of the ice cream 3 times and he never gets it right. And like that's one of the things that the car hop is just like annoyed by. It's like not only is he being just an old, kind of grumpy old man, but he still can't get the name of it right, and she said it to him twice.
Yeah. But the point of that scene is that like
Set up for later.
It's something that he thought he knew, and then he didn't know. Now he's confused, and it's now he knows it's something he's never had before, and he's like, hey, maybe I like this. And it's like this thing that I hated just because it was a new ice cream that wasn't exactly what I wanted. I hate it, but halfway through it, he's like, this is my favorite ice cream. And he backs into somebody.
So
he gets all pissed off. And then I think there was a foreshadow too for his conversation with Mrs. Prentice.
Yeah.
At the end, when he's like, when she's like, "What happens to old men after they can't be sexual anymore? You forget about the passion that you once had." There's, so I think it was kind of maybe a small
to some degree.
Maybe I'm kind of
no, you're not reaching at all.
But
you're not reaching at all.
That's what I like about these movies is those small subtleties.
So again, this is old school filmmaking. This is we weren't sure how to write this stuff yet. Because this is a new medium. Like, granted, film had been around for almost 50 years at that point, but good movies hadn't really been made yet. This is one of the first truly good movies.
Yeah, man,
we got
really
Casablanca,
like this one.
we've got that, but this movie stands as a pillar not just for the cultural issues that it addresses, but as for film itself, because there's so many films that came before it that didn't know how to handle that kind of dialogue, and we've only got 1, 2, 3 moments in this movie that needed to be cut. Like if we were looking at it today, the scene with the maid's daughter where she's like dancing off with the delivery boy, that would be cut today.
I thought that was kind of weird.
I want to cut that scene and like gif it out and like loop it for like one of my beats and just have him fucking.
Well, then if you're gonna cut that one, you got to loop the one where he walks into the house and he's like, "Who is that?"
Dorothy's a smoke show too.
She's hot as shit, bro.
Yep.
She's hot as shit. And I mean, we all know I like my coffee mixed with cream.
Oh, jeez.
We were just not leaving Josh's King Corner.
All right, we're done.
Apparently.
We're out.
Yes.
No,
We're
so
out of
that scene.
You're turned off.
The last half, the part of the last half of the the ice cream shop where he backs into the car, that would have been cut today.
Yeah.
And then probably some of the conversation on the terrace between John and
I think a lot of that would have been cut
Joey?
today, but I thought that was so important. I thought that was some of my favorite parts.
It was, but we would cut it today.
So much depth.
Because in specifically the part of conversation I'm saying that they would cut is the part where she says, I was worried about my parents. They would have cut it after he responds, he's like, really? And she would have said yes, and they would have cut back to the parents. But instead we hold that well, actually we take a new shot, and it's a wide shot of the two of them, and he's like, you're a phony.
Yeah.
You're a phony.
Yeah. Like, but I think that gives that character build that they're
does, but it's a style of
everybody's you're totally right.
Yeah, it's a style of filmmaking we don't do anymore.
But they comment through the whole movie, like, if you just take one look at them, they're happy, they love each other, so that just added more layers, added more depth to the characters. I really appreciated that kind of stuff, and I'm glad that we don't film like that today. I mean, well, I'm not glad. I hold it to a higher standard than probably I should.
Well,
but I really enjoyed this movie.
It comes down to our attention span, really.
True.
We've only got so the reason that we have commercial breaks on TV every 7.5 minutes. Or 7.25 minutes is our attention span only goes that far. So we need to we can have 3 scenes, or sometimes just 2.
You need to
get
a new beer,
and then right, and
more popcorn.
Poor streaming people just don't understand
exactly.
that break. But so back then, when you went to see a show, like movies were new relatively, but when you went to go see a play, you only got 1 intermission. 2 if it was a really long, like Billy Shakespeare happened to be a little, he was long-winded. He had what we call in the business diarrhea of the mouth, we'll say, because he didn't really have a typewriter. But diarrhea of the typewriter.
Can't blame him.
So like we would have 1 intermission, maybe 2, and then with a orchestral performance, you don't get an intermission usually. You have maybe a break in between sonata pieces, like in sonata form there's 3 parts and there's sometimes an intermission, but anyway, we don't have that today. It's all fast paced, and that changed in the 70s and the 80s with the introduction of more action movies. Up to this point we didn't have Bronson, we didn't have I think we might have had the Great Escape, but even that's a slow movie by today's standards.
Okay.
So this was the pinnacle of that form of filmmaking, and it's one of the things that makes it stand out. It's a late great.
We talk about like all the intense directing of like the 90s and early 2000s that we've been covering, and that's like what keeps me on board with my intense ADD. But this movie is good for anybody. You know what I mean?
Real.
It's good for a lot of people, I would say.
I'm a first timer to this movie. When I saw I kind of looked it up and saw the reviews, and the reviews were outstanding, actually.
Any more Vino boys?
I'll take a little spot.
I'll have someone we cut. Okay. I still got to go home.
But no, I was blown away by the reaction from other people, because usually, especially now, they'll continue to rip this movie, like any movie of older standard, to shreds and just nitpick. This movie really doesn't have that, and it has that. We talk a lot about Tarantino dialogue kind of stuff, and it was up to par with, maybe not obviously without the profanity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the
banter
banter was great.
Like I said, the
banter's fantastic.
The whole beginning and the end is like laid out for you in the beginning. So all you have left is how good your writing is, how good your character development is, and like William Rose, like I think it's notable to say too, like he lived like he hated humans.
Yeah.
Like he was the best to write about the human condition and like people's conflicts with themselves and
he worked with
intolerance
Kramer
and
a lot,
tolerance.
right?
Yeah. But he was also doing just like he didn't live in the States. Or they try to say like he's not the best writer of the U.S. or Europe because he like lived in an isle off of somewhere, like bought a castle and like lived by himself because he like hated people.
He's a hermit.
I'm saying like,
a lot of good writers
calling
are
out like
He's
the
a
human
lizard man.
condition,
Yeah.
like that gets you to ask questions, like that changed people's minds. You say this is a movie for the boomers, like in '67, the boomers like who were born in 1950, they're 17 years old at the time. It's more for them, you know what I'm saying, than it is, and it's just as much for the old dude because they got a dude like Spencer Tracy, kind of, and the
you're spot on. You're spot on.
I follow that for sure.
I mean, we can honestly talk about this movie all night long, and I would love to. I do want to come back to this at some point.
Okay.
However, we should probably transition into our next segment.
All right.
Taco ratings. Now, before we get into it, I'm very bad at my job, as we've all noticed, and I forgot to get the
favorite bartender.
I know.
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
your 5th favorite film critic.
You're my first favorite human.
Behind Fozzie, Shasti, Roger, and Ebert.
There you go.
So that was an accidental lineup, by the way. See, I forgot to get the Rotten Tomato score, but I do remember it being rather high from some of the reviews that I have
in the
looked
80s.
up in the years.
Somewhere in the 80s.
What's this?
What's that?
Tomato meter? Is that
Tomato
what it is?
meter?
No, is that Rotten Tomatoes? Yeah, I guess. That's
The one with the green splat is usually the official score.
I'll
green
take a
splat.
second.
And then the popcorn is
We'll
the,
give
is the
it at
audience
the end.
score.
popcorn
Yeah,
is
so,
85. It said.
But obviously this movie's going to score rather high with us, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
As
so.
always, Fozman, give me your score.
All right, I've been going over it for like the last 5 seconds. Been mulling it over. I kept walking away and kept coming back to this movie about 7 times, and I was rewinding it about 10 seconds prior to catch up. And the movie flows really well. Like I said, the dialogue it's almost overly great, but I can't take that away from it at 67. The cast, the lineup, I fell in love with every character.
Yeah.
On the screen, every one of them. Placement. I gotta go high, man. I think I gotta give this one. I'm going 88.5.
Okay.
88.5 tacos. I think I really like this movie. It's not up there on my all-time favorites, but I think it's a 100% watch for anyone.
I agree. I agree.
And I will watch this again, and we'll redo this because I could watch this movie 5 more times.
Yeah.
And
This opens up the rabbit hole. Like there's a few other Sidney Poitier movies that are like interracial at the same time. That one's like with a blind girl.
Yeah.
That's a white girl. There's another one. I mean,
There's Ghost Dad.
yeah.
It's like Son of a Woman, but like flip. Sorry, I love that. Oh, bosh.
So
Great ass.
Yeah. So Greg's got this at what, 88.5?
88.5
Yeah.
tacos.
88
Extra
a bite.
salty.
Alrighty. 88 in salsa. Justy.
I'll raise you a half a point to solid 89.
All right.
Alrighty.
That's good shit.
It's 89.
It's 89. It's
And
88.5.
I'm starting to take it a little more seriously. So if you listen to a few of our previous episodes, if you heard our Mars Attacks one, just throw that rating aside.
Throw it to side.
It stands. It stands because you rated it that way for reasons.
From my boy Timmy.
Yeah. Well,
Timmy.
toss me a couple of reasons for your rating today.
It mainly is because of Spence, and like we said, the dialogue coming into that with Rose and Stanley being the director, and it was like a family set at a very pivotal point, and an actor who we're kind of just like unscratching the surface of from a critical standpoint.
Because
we're
young.
But that one being so like pivotal and how big of a role it played, and like I said, the insurance for Columbia to take it on, they didn't want to at all. Even without him having cancer, but just being the interracial. Problematic movie. They didn't even want to take it, and it ended up being up until that point. Columbia didn't do any big movies. That was their biggest one. They made more money off of Who's Coming to Dinner up to that point than they did any of their previous movies combined.
Yeah.
Oh damn! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that at all.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, in that like 30-year span. Think about like the
Shit,
budget.
yeah,
the
they
budget
were a
you're
black and
talking
white
about?
company.
I'll give him.
Holy
I'll give an extra half
Yeah.
point. We'll rock the same. We'll rock 89s.
89s across the board.
Just
All
for
right.
that one.
I mean,
And also, it was so conversational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was.
that's not my-
it's a
They
play.
were all
It's a play.
so loose.
that's not my
and-
type of movie. But every conversation I like was waiting for the next word. You know what I mean? Because it's so pivotal.
Hanging on
It's so
every word,
pivotal
yeah.
because people's point of view changes. And
Fuck
that's-
yeah, dude. I'm
I
all about
agree.
it. I'm all about it.
I agree.
I've raised a half a point. I can't believe it.
You
I-
raise the half point.
I'm
Me
gonna.
first.
All right, I'll give my rating at the end of here because I absolutely agree with you, Shasti. I think this movie, like, Hollywood is way more conservative than people believe. It always has been. It's just conservatism makes money because that's what's safe. And liberal concepts like this, even though it seems like a black man marrying a white woman doesn't seem like a big deal today, 50 years later, 60 years later, it is. And especially at that time, where we're 4 years out from the Civil Rights Act of '63, and on top of that, we've got some of the biggest titans in Hollywood history going back to the '30s. This movie earns a 95 from me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
This is one of the greatest films ever made. I will never bow down or back down from that.
That's what I gave Die Hard.
Yeah. This is up there with
true,
Die
though.
Hard.
That was holiday season. I was a little drunk. Had a little too many eggnog.
No, this
gave
is
it
one of the
95 on your
best
Christmas
movies
day.
ever made. And so like I said, my dad really loved this movie. And part of my rating is definitely nostalgia. However, my old man was born in 1959. So I got a little bit of perspective from, growing up in the 60s of him talking about this stuff. And at the same time, I haven't seen this movie in probably 10 years. And watching it again, there are 2 movies that I have watched twice in order to do a review. One of them, Scott Pilgrim, and it doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
Because we all know Scott Pilgrim. It has a special place in my heart. This movie is so good. Yeah, you're probably right. This movie's so good. It deserved a second watch. I didn't even watch The Godfather twice.
Did it last
Yeah,
night,
yeah.
too.
I was gonna. I haven't mentioned that.
You can't watch The Godfather twice. You're gonna take up 2 days.
It'll take 2 days.
2 days and 6 shits.
Part of the reason with my high score too is the same thing. It's like we've done some of these movies I watch once a year annually. Some of them I watch more than that. Some of them it's like anytime it's on fucking Netflix or TV or whatever, I watch it.
Yeah.
But this one, like I haven't gone back after we've done a review. Mm-hmm. Even if it's Snatch, which I watch every 3 months.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to watch that movie for a long time. This one is the first one where I'm gonna go home and watch it tonight.
Straight up, yeah.
Like I want to go home and watch it.
Agreed.
And fall asleep tonight.
It's a great
yeah.
fucking movie.
It's amazing.
First timer here.
I'm so one of the things I love
And I thought
about
I was gonna
doing
like
this
be
show.
halfway. Sorry.
No, you're good.
But I'm ecstatic about this film. I think it's a great pick, Josh. Thanks for bringing this to my table because this is like, it's been under the radar for probably a lot of people. I mean, maybe not everyone. I mean, our folks and stuff.
Well,
but
yeah.
we're a little younger. I mean, we're in our 30s.
They remade it as a comedy, so obviously the people people
with
don't know what
Ashton
it
Kutcher,
is.
so fuck off.
One of the things I love about this movie is being able to bring movies like this one of the things I love about this show is bringing movies like this to the table that you haven't seen yet. And this was probably the one I was the most excited about because as critics, this is the shit we live for.
Yeah.
We live for give me something to dig my teeth
Substance.
into and to
Yeah.
love.
Yes.
Because we talk about like
Substance.
I have a place in my heart for shitty movies.
I know.
And
And
I bring a lot of them
this
to the
is
table.
not. This is
not one of them. This movie stands alone as probably one of the top 25 movies ever made.
Yeah. You know, you're not wrong.
It makes me think that my previous list of top 25, it's like, okay, I need to really
that's
go
the-
back to fundamentals. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's
And
part of
that's the cool part about it is we can change. We can.
It's always a fluctuating list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like people ask what's your favorite band? What day is it?
Yeah.
What hour is it? You know what I mean?
Doesn't
Like,
matter
it's-
what it doesn't matter what
how am I
color that
feeling?
ice cream is. You know what I mean? You can get halfway through and be like, I like this.
It may jump around in position as far as that top 25.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's never going to be number one because there are just a couple of movies that will never budge from that spot. However, this movie deserves not just to be seen by everyone, but to be seen multiple times and discussed by everyone.
Absolutely.
Because not only does it have civil rights issues to talk about, it is a masterclass in how to make a film in 4 sets. You have the terrace, you have a car, you have the study, and you have the family room. They made a movie in 4 sets. Well,
They
and I
went to
guess
the
5 sets we've got
restaurant for the one
Well, I count the
scene.
car for that.
Airport.
Yeah, the airport
car.
is the 5th set. 5 sets. They did this in like you would do a play.
Yeah.
And they made a masterclass in film they had a couple of over-the-shoulder shots that are just impeccable. A lot of wide shots, a lot of super close
and I
facials.
love the close facials.
They did the over the shoulder shot that's most memorable is what I was telling you was in my favorite scene when it's on the terrace at night.
Yeah.
And it's when Drayton and
Poitier.
yeah. Like when the 2 moms are talking. And it's like they also use like the best lens at that time. You know what I mean? To get the aperture shot where the one mom is in focus and the other one's blurred out.
Yeah.
And then it switches and it's just like, you know what I mean? You switch, right?
Those-
when
and
people are
This is during the
you know, and
development
it's
of
just-
those shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about the
Yeah.
aperture of it. That's a new fucking
New
science
thing.
for
Yeah,
them at the
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
Like depth of field for their lens. Yeah.
That's something that like Hepburn would have seen the progression of, and suddenly she's literally in one of the perfect shots for it.
Yeah.
You know, where they have the close up focus and then they switch to the far focus, and God, the camera work is fantastic, but it's not flashy. You don't notice it.
It's not flashy.
You shouldn't notice good. You know what? Again, we can talk about this forever.
Yeah, let's
you shouldn't notice good camera.
We did tacos.
However, this movie deserves to be seen. Go watch it. You can rent it as of this recording. You can rent it on Amazon, or you can come to my house. I have the DVD.
Josh's
That
King
said,
Corner.
That said, I do have some unfortunate news for those of you who have not bought my book yet. You're dead to me.
Yeah, he's dead. F in the chat. Boom! F in the chat, boys. F in the chat.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Sippable House Publishing is going under, and they are considering the possibility of being a passive publisher, which means you can still order it online and it would still be print to order. So everyone who hasn't ordered it, please order it, because they have a staff of wonderful people. I have worked with several of their editors. I've worked with Evelyn for 2 years now, and they deserve some success. So take a look at their catalog. There's a bunch of stuff out there that I'm sure you'll enjoy. That said, I wrote a book.
He's not so forgetful anymore.
I wrote a book.
Buy the book.
It's called Reaper. It's the first in a series of potential series of young adult fantasy novels called The Gatekeepers. You can find it on Amazon.com, BarnesNoble.com, anywhere online you buy your books in hardcover, paperback, and ebook. Unfortunately, we will not be doing that audiobook this year. But if you search Reaper Josh Price, it should be one of the first things that pops up. The cover is Stonehenge with the moon, with a crescent moon over the top of it. Please buy my book. Not for my sake, even though I do benefit from that, but because there are 14 people that are counting on you to buy my book.
Just buy
the fucking book.
Buy the fucking book.
In hardcover.
You can find me online on Twitter. The Price is Right 312 on Instagram. Forgetful Writer 312. You guys know the spiel at this point. Check out our Patreon page if you'd like to support us financially. We definitely do benefit from that. We got a nice heater. We've been able to get a little bit of nicer equipment. We're looking at getting some stuff in the next couple of months because of the patrons. We appreciate you. If you'd like to join that army, you will get early access to all of our products. That includes podcasts and videos. You will get direct access to contact us, and you'll get pilots to shows that we don't put out anywhere else. You get the unseen pilot to things like thesis statement, and a couple of episodes here and there for pilots of this show, as well as Patreon exclusives that we make specifically for our patrons. Where am I going after this? I've had a little too much wine.
Yeah,
I'm going to Greg.
I think you're done, dude.
Right.
Have this.
Fozman here, Fozcaster on Twitter. I wanted to tell you about one more thing we're doing. It's going to be called the Director's Cut. Actually, Director's Cut. We're really pumped about this one. We're going to talk about styles, tropes, manifestations of getting through your own life, the whole gamut of some of your best and your favorite directors. I think we're going to start off with a guy named James Cameron for the first one.
Who?
I think you guys will know him. Well, by the end of what we're talking about, you will know him. So check that out.
I'm pumped. You guys are gonna be able to step outside the box like tonight 10 times. It's like, oh, we'll get into that next time, or we don't have enough time for that. It's like there's so much based on like the development of these movies where you guys are gonna go crazy.
And over the
I'm
course,
excited.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah.
We're actually recording our first episode next week, so good plug there.
Heck
There I go.
Love you.
Have you started tweeting yet?
Not
Do you ever
really.
plan
I'm
on
still
tweeting?
there. I'm still there. The
This fucking
Fozcast.
guy.
I don't know. Like Twitter is like weird to me, man. After Donald Trump, like
Find homie on Facebook. Dude. Find me on Facebook.
Find me, blow me up.
No, we
Let's
don't
talk.
give out his last name. Remember?
No, that's right. I'm the untouchable.
The Untouchable.
You can find him on our
I've
Facebook
been-
page.
I've been
All right,
censored.
That's true. That's true.
You can find Greg. Honestly, if you want to get hold of Greg and tell him anything, hop on the Facebook page and be like, yo.
Yeah, if you go to our Facebook page, the person you're probably talking to is Greg, now that I think about it. Shasti's right. Speaking of, master of the mix, king of the keyboard.
Yeah, Twitter, I guess. Shasi got bands, IG, same.
He got that
handle.
beautiful Insta. That boy takes photos.
Yeah.
Not pictures, photos.
On the daily. So follow me there.
And he cooks up some good food and shit too.
Bro, I'll be in the car with this guy, and he'll just be driving down the road like, I need to come back here and take pictures of that. Like,
You see that tree out there in the middle of that cornfield?
Hey, you see this camera
That's
behind
exactly
me?
what it was
Hey,
last
you see
week,
this camera
too.
behind me? We might as well put it to fucking use.
That's true. Once again, We'd like to thank 19 Crimes for allowing us to buy your product. Seaglass, thank you for allowing us to buy your product. We use Peluso mics. They're fantastic. As you can see, they make us sound way better than we really are.
Yeah.
Check out the YouTube channel. Check out the Patreon. We see you, we hear you, we love you, and we'd like to say goodbye.
I'll add something in right now.
Camera's still on me. Okay.
No, just let it run. I'll put on like the logo or whatever. You know what I mean? Just pick the outro. No, it's fine. That can be the end of the episode. Yeah.